Hello, all you beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of Podcast Assemble, the show where you come for your rambling, geeky download. My name's Tommy, and I am delighted, as always, to be joined by my friend and co-host from across the pond. It's our resident spice addict of the pod, DL. How are you, mate?
I'm good, man.
He's high.
I'm good. Spice. It's super spicy.
It's the spice. It's the spice. It's Christopher Walken. He needs the spice. It started already.
Yeah, he could use some spice. He was seeing him.
Pep him up a little bit.
He seemed a bit dry.
He's
in this movie.
It seemed like the desert.
You needed to crisp him up.
Like the desert
spice.
missed the rain. Like the desert missed the rain. I don't know why I'm doing Christopher Walken today, but here we are. How are you, mate?
I'm good, man. Psychoactive as fuck. What's going on?
Are you seeing
How
the
are
future at this point of all the spice?
I do see the future. I know what we will do in this
We will
episode.
talk about Dune 2
Dune Part 2,
2024.
and we will extrapolate on Dune Part 3.
At some point, you're going to have to do the voice on me and make me do something that I'm not intending to do this episode. Do it. Do it.
That's basically what they stole the voice from, right?
Pretty much.
Do it. How are you, bud?
Man, I'm very good. What have you been up to? What's been happening?
Oh, lots of. I'm living that fun employment life.
Oof.
Yeah,
Fun employment. We haven't talked about this.
Yeah, right now I'm just enjoying French lessons. I'm studying French. I'm reading.
I'm not jealous.
I am going to gym every day. I'm stretching. You know when you're like all the things you're like, fuck. If I had 5 more minutes.
You're like peak humanity right
Dude,
now.
I'm like flossing and shit. Like every day floss, every day stretch, every day French, every day gym, and then whatever I can do after, which is generally a bit of reading, a bit of writing, a bit of wedding planning.
Where are you up to in the Red Sun novellas?
Red Rising, you mean?
Yeah, whatever. I don't know.
Fucking cuck.
They're all the same. They're all the same.
They are not, dude. I am at.
Okay, I don't care. Let's move on.
I'm at.
Yeah,
like,
man. I'm glad you.
Good joke. But I'm going to power through this one. I'm 75% done. I think.
Oh, wow.
Dark Ages, the 5th book.
And there's a 6th book.
There's a
coming out.
6th one. There's a 6th one already out. Then a 6th one part 2. A little part 1, a little part 2.
They're like Dune Part 2, like the
Yes.
thing we're talking about today.
Dude, this is like the most excited I've been about a series since Game of Thrones, and one of the more like horror element, like one of the big twists that just happened, and I won't say much, is like the coolest shit since like, I don't know if you ever played Halo 1, for all our listeners that did.
I know of it.
That mission in the jungle where you discover the flood.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah,
my god.
Yeah, I know of this.
Creepy as hell. This is
Interesting.
like he's done a whole pivot where every time I think this guy's like, okay, he's like a one-trick pony. His chops have increased and he's like switching tones and it's all horror right now and it's beautiful.
Fun employment really suits you.
It's beautiful.
You're more energetic than I've ever seen you on a podcast.
Yeah, well,
it's fantastic.
Second line sales leadership's a bitch. It's just a big meat factory, and in the worst way, like the processed meat factory.
Oh,
not the kind where you're just like getting free range meat.
I mean,
you know what I'm talking about.
No, I don't actually.
You tell me
everything.
free range organic meat. Anyway,
that's all I eat, man. That's all I eat.
Yeah, so I've been doing a lot of that. How about you? But you have some big news.
I did have some big news this weekend. Yes.
Are you sharing with the
and it's
the
not
world?
You asking me to be your bridesmaid.
No.
Unfortunately, I mean,
you are the flower girl.
I am the flower girl at your wedding. Me and my partner got engaged. I know. It's one of those weird things. Like life kind of happens around you, and like I got to the point where I was like, I don't know why I've not done this yet.
Yeah,
like
that is
why haven't I done this yet?
Every man comes to that, situation, that crossroads, and when they make the jump, that's
and God
part
bless
of it.
her.
Yeah.
She was very patient with me. I am the slowest human of all time.
Yes.
Like I'm slower than the worms in this movie. I just take my time. We just patter
Aren't the
around.
worms fast though?
I mean,
they just look like they're going slow. So maybe it's just an optical illusion.
For a worm, for like the size of the planet, they're probably pretty slow.
I was gonna say, like for a worm, they're fucking fast.
Yeah, they do look pretty.
Worms are usually pretty slow.
We're gonna talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
There's a few bits I want to talk about the worms.
But like, so while you were getting married,
I was getting engaged.
Sorry, married. You were getting engaged. Would you?
God, too soon.
Yeah,
too soon.
sorry.
It's gonna be one of those. It's gonna be one of those long engagements. You know where it lasts 10 to 20 years.
yeah, totally. Mine's
best
been
kind.
2.5, so that's got to beat that.
A tenth of what I just said.
Yeah. Well, you always do it big, man. Well,
that's it.
That's epic. Congrats.
Well, you were jacking off in a bathroom.
Yeah, well, I was getting my sperm tested, which, by the way, the boys can swim. So while you were doing that, I was getting pretty intimate with.
For anyone who's new to the podcast, we're not normally this either personal in my perspective or this weirdly
that's
intimate on your
personal as well.
perspective.
I had to match your energy. I mean, this is a big news, dude. My boys can swim.
Can swim. I'm happy for
Dense, high viscosity, lots of number, and they can swim.
So you guys are going to start trying?
No, we're not going to try.
Oh, but
so this was
just
like just to make sure that like
pre-preemptive.
we don't like, if we make a big decision and not do it for a bit, we're not like out of the way. We can still do it.
Yeah,
and
right. Okay.
The results came back like, yeah, you probably can.
It's like Keanu Reeves, like learning gun fu to be like, I don't know, John Wick. You want to learn the skills first before you sort of move into the actual filming of the thing.
I feel like it'd be more like if Keanu Reeves wanted to become like
this
an
is
assassin.
a film podcast, but film and TV podcast, by the way.
Yeah, it's more like if like
stuff.
Keanu Reeves was like trying to become an assassin, but before he did that, he needed to make sure like he didn't get like he didn't have a high risk for muscle cramps or something.
Just in his trigger finger.
Yes. So you gotta do your groundwork, right? If they couldn't swim, then like I'd have to deal with that. I'd have to think about whether
if you got cramps too soon, I mean, in your hand, that'd be the worst.
That already happens.
Guys, look, if you don't want to listen to us banter about our weeks, feel free to stick around. It doesn't normally get this weird or this personal. This is us after a week and a bit of not seeing each other properly, having a great old catch-up as this podcast is known to be about, checking on each other's mental health as we like to do. But if you want to do, there will be time codes in the description. Please feel free to jump around. Jump to our main topic. Our main topic is going to be a doozy. I'm so excited to talk to you about it. We only saw it yesterday.
I am too.
Gonna be epic.
It's gonna be awesome. But you didn't really ask me about my mental health. You just asked me about my sperm.
No, you just told me about it. How are you trying to
we have this
move
on the
away
tape.
from the conversation?
You asked about the sperm.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Ask me about my mental health next time. Jesus Christ, Thomas.
Let me ask you about a question then.
Yes.
If you were to give this podcast one big Dune worm or up to 5 big Dune worms, how many Dune worms would you give this podcast?
I would give it 5 Dune worms.
5 stars. Please, ladies and gentlemen, we'd love it if you give us a 5-star review. It really helps the podcast with algorithms, stuff we don't really understand. It would be really helpful, and we really appreciate you for doing that. Yes. What have you been up to, DL? What's been happening in our Geeky spheres?
Watched the ending of 1923.
So that's the TV show.
1883.
That's also a TV show.
They're all both TV shows. They're both prequels.
They are both numbers
to Yellowstone, and they're both numbers. And it's good. It's a good one.
I feel like with any of those shows or movies where it's just like a number, at least preface it with, give me anything.
It's
like,
a Western. I'm telling you. It's
2012 could be anything.
Well, it's a Western.
It's 2012 is not.
It's a Western set like right when everyone was crossing the Oregon Trail.
Of course.
So like people,
you ever play the 32-bit video game where you have to do the Oregon Trail? God, that was dull.
Who didn't?
I always just died of dysentery halfway through for no reason.
Yeah, that's the point. you don't get a
Nobody wins.
But I didn't actually do much like geeky stuff other than reading that book and watching some Westerns, which I tend to do. I also watched The Alamo.
Ooh.
Which is not that great of a Western, but I'm down to a spare few.
Okay.
I've seen almost all of them, so I had to like kind of dig into the war chest there. And
what about new Westerns? Actually, let's come back to it.
There's not that many good ones out.
I'm intrigued to know a bit more about The Alamo. Talk to me about The Alamo. Is it worth watching?
Oh, look, it's got our boy from Aquaman.
Oh, J-Mo?
It's got not who's J-Mo. It's got Patrick Wilson from Aquaman.
Is he as buff as he's in Aquaman? Because he is.
No. Well, I don't know. It's like it's ragtag cowboy gear, so it's not really flattering to the shred.
I'm going to make this joke again. He's Shred Dead Redemption in Aquaman,
yeah,
so if he's bringing that noise,
he's kind of like a youthful boy
no dysentery in this.
Yeah, his whole character is like a youthful general. The other guy, it's got Billy Bob Thornton playing Davy Crockett.
I love a Billy Bob.
Yeah, and he was, he's good
until he does something bad that you can't take back, and then we don't love him.
Is that what he's done?
I mean, no, all celebrities seem to do that these days. There's always something, isn't there?
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah. It's just a Western.
Bryan Singer's apparently a pedophile now. Who knew?
Bryan Singer?
Yeah.
Who is that again?
He's the guy who did the X-Men movies.
Okay.
You remember the originals, the OGs with Hubert Jackman and the rest of that cast? Yeah, apparently bad things came out about him. He was doing things he shouldn't have been with a 17-year-old. So, yay Hollywood. I feel like to be in that position, you need to be a bit different to the rest of humanity.
I mean, for sure, you do.
Well, I did some cool stuff.
Moving on from the movie in Alabama.
Moving on from these things. Which do you want first? Do you want the fun rom-com or the fun animation?
Can I skip the rom-com?
Oh, it's a good one. It's a good one.
Yeah, I want the rom-com.
I'll do the rom-com first. So we watched a movie in the last week, which actually friend of the show, Reeks, Resident of the pod, recommended to us when he was on, or maybe got cut, I can't remember, but when he was around. And it is called Sleeping with Other People. Now, it is a real nice twist on like a rom-com film. So it's Alison Brie. Do you remember she's in Community? She's in a bunch of stuff these days. And it's Jason Sudeikis. You know Jason Sudeikis? Obviously Ted Lasso in everything now. So it's a few years old. It's not brand new. But it's this sort of weird take on like dating whereby they hooked up once in college. Then now they like re-meet up and it's they're just best mates, but, you know, they're both sinful for people, but practically in a relationship at the same time. It does all the things rom-coms doesn't do. Like, they sound like real people. They talk like humans. They are sexually motivated. They go to a party, like a kid's birthday party, like a kid's 10th birthday party on MDMA. It's fucking hilarious.
Nice.
Genuinely really funny. Lots of laugh out loud moments.
Nice. And it's got Adam Brody.
It does have Adam Brody.
And it also has my boy fucking Jason Mantzoukas.
It's got the guy from Severance as well.
Does it?
Yeah, he's the...
Which one?
He's the main guy from Severance. I forgot his name.
Oh, the main dude?
Yeah, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, Adam Scott?
Yeah, he's really good in it. Plays a very different character. Like, he's sort of the bad guy in it.
Ooh.
It's good. I like it a lot. Very fun.
All right.
It's one to watch with a partner for cheesy.
Where can you watch these things?
I think it might be Netflix, but I can't 100% remember.
On my watch list.
Highly recommend.
Oh, we actually didn't talk about how I've gone cheap on you.
Yeah. Well, we brushed on it last week, but we never went full on it.
I forgot. My bad.
Your memory's
Tommy's
bad.
like very familiar with Turkish Airlines marketing campaigns because of my Netflix decision.
I know all about Hungry Jack's latest deals. Let's say that
dude,
much.
I need. You know what? That might do it because I'm trying to do Wedding Shred. If I see a Hungry Jack's commercial, I might.
I keep
cave.
thinking about texting you, being like, dude, come on. Because so for anyone who hasn't listened to a recent podcast, Dre recently did a cull, let's call it.
Yes, a massive cull.
Basically anything that cost him monthly, he was like, nah, don't need it, it's fine. And Netflix...
Just to see if I did, yeah.
Netflix has gone down to the ad version, and I had 3 separate sets of adverts in one episode of Friends last night.
Friends, really?
20 minutes, 3 sets of adverts.
That can't be true.
Honest, on my life.
Dude,
ask the partner.
You know that it's double the cost. Now that I'm on ads, it's actually... They've made it very, very cheap for the cheap.
So it's 100% increase.
So it's like $6 up to $12.
Dude, $12.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Like, come on. For someone who
take the wrong
is fun employed, I feel like you can get away with it. Come on. White person problems.
We'll see.
Well, I'm going to cut down your stand to the ads one.
There is no ad tier.
That show you never fucking watch.
Probably like, surely it's like $3 a month. If it's anything more, it's not worth it.
It's more expensive. Stan has a lot of very good British TV on there. Things that I like to go back and watch.
Definitely.
I think you would love them as well.
You gotta, what is it? Just Doctor whatever?
Doctor Who's on Disney now. I'll find you some recommendations.
Give me some stuff. I'm building my watch list. I got
sure
sleeping with other people on there. What's the
I'm sure we've talked about a show called Life on Mars previously. Has regularly been voted as as the best TV ending of all time. It's phenomenal. It's highly worth. I just go and just Google it. Go check out Life on Mars as John Sim, who you'd probably know from, ironically, Doctor Who and a bunch of other stuff. He's done movies.
How old is this?
Ooh, it's probably mid 2000s,
2006 to 2007.
Yeah, something around that region.
After a near fatal car accident.
Yes.
Okay.
I highly recommend going away, Googling this, check it out. Don't read the description because it's probably going to just confuse you a little bit. Just dive straight in. First 2 or 3 episodes going to give you a list. Real good.
Stan will get one login from the last year.
I should really cut it. One other thing I did that I think you're going to really enjoy, recommended by one of the friends of the show, who's I've not got the name here, I do apologize, is a movie called Mitchells versus Machines. Now, this, once again, great for being with a partner, dumb premise, really fun film.
Okay.
So it's by Lord and Miller, the 2 guys who did the Lego movie, they did Into the Spider-Verse. They are like absolute animation legends. And the movie is effectively about this dysfunctional family who, like, the daughter's an art student and the dad doesn't understand because he's like an old-fashioned kind of dad, and they always butt heads. And what happens is it's kind of this, it's a little bit of a play on, the iRobot thing, whereby some big tech company creates an app and it goes rogue and it takes over the world with using like the brand new technology, which is effectively the new robot types.
Yeah.
Really nicely executed, really fun. Got some really good voice cast in there. Like, all of it's so heartwarming. Like, it's the thing I find about this movie, which baffles me so much, is that this has a budget of 50 to 100 million, right? So, like, it's not the most expensive movie you're ever going to see. Had a good voice, has a really great voice cast, like I mentioned. Like, Olivia Colman's great in this. Bunch of folks. Danny McBride's in this. And it is just phenomenal storytelling.
Yeah.
Even as like an animation, and some animation sometimes gets a bit of a bad rap, but like every single note it hits, every single emotional beat, the music stings are perfect for the moment.
Machines and what?
Mitchells versus Machines. And the thing that I don't understand is, like, how is it so easy for these guys when you get people who are spending 250, 300 million on like a blockbuster with the best writers, the best music, the best everything, And it's so bad. Like, they just don't get any of the story beats right. Like, and I'm not talking about Dune 2. We're going to talk about this in a moment. It's a phenomenal movie. I'm talking about things like Aquaman. You know what I mean? Movies we've watched recently. Things like Argyle that we've had friends of the show, Richie Staines, calling out is one of the worst movies he's ever watched. Like,
did he really?
How is it these guys just get it and so few others get it right? I don't get it.
I think it's just like the studios, these aren't rushed.
Yeah, right.
I think that's the big thing. They're not rushed and they're not like spending a bunch of money on people that like, you know.
They shouldn't.
Yeah, like I think it's just because it's not rushed, you can just make it good.
Yeah, I suppose.
You know what I mean? It's not like tied to like
Argyle didn't
money.
seem rushed. Like, I didn't even know about it until it came.
That just
out.
seems like something where they were like, let's make it look like,
One
what's the Moulin Rouge with a spy movie, like the art direction of Moulin Rouge with a spy movie that's not a spy movie.
Have you seen the trailer for Argyle?
Yes.
You
don't think it looks like that?
I don't think it looks like
the way they dress.
It looks like a very generic 2020s.
I just mean like the color palette. Like it's
Sure.
a super explosive color palette with like a bunch of really, really in actors and a half-baked script that like both spy people and the moms will like.
Oh my God.
And they're like, okay, yeah. And then somebody like writes that and it's just like bad because they've like been given a directive that's not actually from a place of I want to write with this message.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I just feel like these guys get it right so easily. So many people could learn lessons from them. Mitchell's versus the Machines. 100% worth a watch. Like so much fun. Your partner would like it too if she can focus on it for more than 15 minutes.
These are two good selections for you from my partner.
Highly recommend.
She would probably agree to both of these.
Okay, good.
So you're helping me out.
Don't let her watch the trailer first. The trailer focuses more on the like the robots and stuff. Just get her straight into the movie.
That will never work.
Okay.
She has to watch the trailer. I'll just say it's like an animated movie. You'll like it.
Yeah, okay, good. Any more recommendations from yourself?
Dude, honestly, I've been deep in the books. You don't want to hear about it. And it's spoilers. You can't hear about it.
I can't hear about it. We'll come back to it when you finish this book and we'll touch on the story so far. You can give a very vague overview.
Succinct and
how
vague.
you're liking it, stuff like that.
You haven't gotten farther than page 20 yet?
I'm about 7 chapters into the new one.
Okay.
They're short chapters though, so I'm not getting...
I was going to say, I don't think that's very far.
It's not. Guys, if you have any recommendations for us, anything that we should be talking about, anything that you think our partners would watch with us, please hit us up at podcast, and definitely things they wouldn't. I love watching them to sci-fi. Hit us up at podcastassemble or thepodcastassemble@gmail.com, or you can go to our website, www.podcastassemble.com. You can find all of our details there. All that stuff's happening. Check us out. Now, DL, do you want to preface our main topic?
It's the main topic theme.
Dune 2.
It's back,
Dune
baby.
2.
It's Dune 2.
I'm doing part 2.
I'm doing Christopher Walken for the rest of the show. It's Dune 2, baby. We're going to do non-spoilers and then spoilers. But to kick off, do you have a stupid plot summary, Leo?
Yes, I do. Did you, by the way, see that like the Dune, this is like the biggest bubblehead moment for me. I didn't realize it until yesterday. The D, the U, the N, and the E are all the same. They're just rotated.
You mean in the
art direction?
Yeah, it's cool.
Kind of cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
Anyway,
Good
side
font.
note.
Good fonting. I'm a big font guy.
Yeah,
I love a good font.
Like, why can't I get Dune font on my iPhone? That would be cool.
Imagine sending text in the Dune font. I'd be like,
I already have fat thumbs as it is.
Stupid plot summary, baby.
Paul's mom goes full island boy. Hereditary chic as Paul goes full Coxman white Jesus.
Oh, wow.
That's my dumb summary.
Simple and effective.
Yes.
Mine's a little bit different. Mine is just, we return to Arrakis, a world where you become a man by riding a worm, and size definitely matters. And ironically, in a cinema, you can fuck the popcorn. It's nice and simple. I don't know if you saw all of the memes about the popcorn holders that they were giving out.
Did they even have those? We couldn't even buy them.
No.
I would have bought one.
I'm sure they took
I would have put it on your head.
I'd have just taken it home and had sex with it.
I would have liked to eat popcorn out of that. I would have liked to eat popcorn in general. Right now. We should have popped some.
You didn't get time. This is, of course, from director Denis Villeneuve, one of our favorites over here at the pod, and based on Frank Herbert's, well, obviously unfilmable novel of the same name, because that's what everybody believed leading into this. But now I think he's proved them kind of wrong.
I don't understand why people thought this was unfilmable when you have things like Star Wars.
Right.
I think David Lynch just did a really bad job.
Well, I feel like we're going to talk about this.
It was really bad, like in every way that you could make basic mistakes.
I think it's just like a lot of the book is so dense and it's such utter nonsense for the most of the time with all these weird Lisan al Gaib words and stuff. It's just confusing.
Unadaptable would be a better way to describe it.
Sure.
Yeah. Like, because it's like, how do you adapt this story? I agree with that.
And this brings back all of the big hitters. Pretty much every fucker in Hollywood is literally in this. There's Timothée Chalamet, obviously, as Paul Atreides. Zendaya's got a bigger role in this. Rebecca Ferguson's back as Jessica. Javier Bardem is back as Stilgar, who we will talk about.
Steals the show.
Josh Brolin is back as Get Everything with Guns in the Air. We have Austin Butler as Fade Routher. We have Florence Pugh, Dave Bautista, Christopher Walken, Leah Seydoux, Stellan Skarsgård. Just jam-packed cast. Like, wow. Wowza.
Austin, buddy.
We talked about this last time, I think. I go back and check out our episode. I think it was around episode 45. It's probably terrible quality, knowing us. No,
it's old school.
I did actually listen back to the set. So we did, around episode 35, we did the 1984 version with Kyle MacLachlan, who was a 30-year-old man playing a teenager. And then we came a bit later and we did the first Denis Villeneuve movie, which was actually while we were still locked down in COVID. So it was kind of some much needed nutrition at the time. And it's interesting seeing this from the perspective of being out of that and having more headspace to talk to. But I did want to call out, I really like the diverse cast in this. And from there, I thought I would bring back an old favorite segment of the show that we do some weeks, but not every week. And I try and bring it up when I have time. Goofy IMDB picture.
Okay, let's hear.
Now,
who's our reigning champion?
Our current champion, our current MVP is William Fichtner, who is the bank manager in The Dark Knight, who pretty much is a pretty good IMDb picture, except he's sucking on a fucking lemon. And he's got a really weird color grading to it. I'm not sure what's happening with that.
He's a great actor. Weird hair.
Yeah.
And weird IMDb pic.
Yeah. I think he looks like he probably either needs or has attempted plugs and they've not worked.
I think he should shave.
Somewhere in the middle. He should just get rid of it.
I think he should shave.
Just get rid of it. But like, that's the thing I love about him. He's just like a normal looking dude in Hollywood where everyone is like a picture perfect human being.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys like that. Yeah.
Love that about him. So we have a challenger.
Okay.
Now, for anyone who hasn't listened in previously, Goofy IMDb picture, we're not making fun of people's appearances. It's all about, this is your key way to be showcased to audiences.
Unless you're an uggo. Then I'm making fun of
Unless you're an uggo, in which case...
I'm just kidding. I love to make Tommy uncomfortable, team. That is a big part of my job here.
We have the Reverend Mother from Dune 2, whose name I'm going to butcher. It's Gweesi Merely. And this is her Goofy IMDb picture deal. To explain this to our beautiful listeners.
I mean, she looks like a dried out mummified nun. But I think she was a horror, wasn't she?
I think it's from a horror movie.
I think it is from a horror movie.
I think it's like The Nun or something, but like, yeah.
I mean, maybe that's the kind of role.
Look at them teeth.
My God. I was talking about how I've been flossing. She has not been. She's not been flossing.
It's not a good picture.
No, I mean, but I guess that's kind of similar to the role that she played in this movie. Really old lady that,
True.
Or I guess not spoilers. It's early. It's in the trailer that dies and passes on all her memories to Paul's mom. So maybe that's what she's going for.
I mean,
maybe this is her marketing strategy.
Ironically, this happened last time we talked about this because we talked about David Dasmalchian's picture, who is a favorite of the pod.
Yeah.
But his like IMDb picture is just him marketing the role that he has in every film.
Yeah, so I think it adds up.
Fair. So I think it adds up. You don't think this is Goofy? You think this is...
I think we're going to see her in, like Nuns
The Nun 2.
or what's another, The Ring remake or whatever, Ghost and Ghostbusters.
She will be in Ghostbusters
3.
Frozen.
Frozen Ghost 4. Like, I don't know. I think it could happen.
So your choice for Goofy IMDb picture is?
I think we're sticking with our boy.
We're sticking with Willie. I don't feel like we've had a really good contender for a while.
It's the talent is
mediocre.
I guess the talent's been getting better because people are doing
irony.
What they should be doing.
The bitter irony.
We can thank the Lord for that.
We'll come back strong. We'll come back stronger. So talk to me then. So what's the plot of part 2 of Dune?
This follows, I believe, shortly after the fall of House Atreides. So you're seeing Paul and his mom kind of being taken in by the Fremen after he's killed that old mate who is a good warrior. I forget his name. There's from part 1. There's not a lot that has changed except that the Harkonnens have basically taken back over, Arrakis with all their old gear. Yep. And we follow Paul as he acclimates into the Fremen as an exile and slowly but surely makes kind of a name for himself amongst the Fremen people with the help of Shani, played by our old beautiful Zendaya, a female Fremen northern warrior.
She's a gangster in this.
She is a gangster, right?
And she don't need no man.
She don't need no man. She kind of proves that. Paul's got to earn his stripes a bit, but what starts as kindness kind of blossoms into a romance I think
She does like those skinny white boys.
she has a thing.
She likes them skinny
Honestly,
white
Tom,
boys.
I don't know.
Oh,
We may have a
Tommy
Mr. and
Holland.
Mrs. Smith thing going on here. If it comes out later, it would have come out a while ago though,
Yeah,
because
true.
this
That's
has been
actually
filmed
fair.
like 3 years ago. But yeah, and she commits herself to romancing him after he kind of commits to her cause, and she proves himself as a worthy soldier and peer. But this kind of burgeoning, how do I say this word? Burgeoning.
Begrudgeoning. Bludgeoning.
Bludgeoning.
She's
This love that is
bludgeoning him with
bludgeoned.
romance.
This burgeoning love begins to come into direct conflict with his Bene Gesserit mother's goals for him to become the Quasatsan, or whatever the fuck it is.
Lisan al Gaib.
The chosen one, after she gets on some next level horror shit for a bit, ingesting the minds of all the other witches of
She gets really fucked up.
all years past.
She takes so much Molly that she believes she remembers
She
everyone.
She
every
literally
life
becomes
she's
the
ever had.
memory of all grandmothers and squawks like one as well.
And effectively, it sets up a war.
Yeah, and it sets up, this path where, people, Paul's intent and wants are going to be in conflict with his destiny and fate. And we really explore that for most of the film. This is a story about really Paul on a collision course with destiny as he makes a legitimate and meritful name for himself, but that also pushes him towards, the old, there's two Freemen, right? The North and the South. The South are fundamentalists, and he's afraid of jumping into that because of his visions.
My favorite about this movie is it's clearly incredibly deep. It's clearly incredibly full of themes and tones and all of this beautiful. Yeah. That was really good.
Just like every given moment.
That was really
I
good.
just want to give you like the full.
You were pitch perfect.
Was I?
Yeah, like
we got it
absolutely.
recorded.
No, but so it has all of this beautiful stuff woven into it. Like, it is such a deep movie, but I'm just sitting there like 9% of the time being like, pretty
Worm asshole.
pretty cinematography and worm assholes. It was just so good to look at. I was distracted the whole time. It was amazing.
But that it doesn't really distract from it. I think it adds to it mostly, obviously.
Really
but
I'm
the worm
facetious
butthole
completely.
invasive thoughts,
You
definitely distracted.
This is part 2 of your worm butthole thoughts, because you were talking about this in the previous one.
I don't know, but like those are invasive thoughts.
I mean, you're the one who's thinking it, buddy.
Come on.
I'm not about that life.
Come on.
My favorite part about this is definitely Paul's transition into being a complete meme.
Oh.
He becomes the Lisan al Gaib.
Lisan al Gaib.
It's so funny that that this has been
Paul
memed.
Farce. Lisan al Gaib.
This got memed to death before it even hit cinemas properly. It was amazing. Like, just some of the acting in this is truly by Javier Bardem is truly spot on.
It's really good.
It's almost
It's
on
like
the
a perfect
cusp.
comedic effect.
Yeah, it's on the cusp of being like
Goofy.
silly,
Yeah,
but
it is.
not. It's fantastic. I think one thing I'm interested to know more about though is because we talked about this last time, and it will be forever in my peril that I got about halfway through the book. So dense, Dune. So dense, so thick. Doesn't have as good font as the current one does. And I just gave up. I was like, fuck this. Like, it's too much. There's too many weird words. Lisan al Gaib, for example. Tell me what are the differences here. The key ones, not spoilery ones.
Oh, you want to do
From
that
the
now?
book.
It's kind of hard. A lot of them are kind of spoilery, so I'll try and avoid those ones. We'll do the rest of those after spoilers. But I think one of the biggest changes that they make for the better is Chani's perspective on the prophecy of the Lisan al Gaib.
And the youth's perspective.
Yeah, and
I
the
like
youth's
that.
perspective on the Lisan al
The
Gaib
youth in it.
prophecy
It's the youth.
is
my friend
that
knows,
like
doesn't
it's very different. They're against it. They think it's religious.
She's like,
Ho ho jargon.
she's like, Paul Atreides, why are you doing this? You're not the Messiah.
I mean, but it's also like a conflicted thing within the group, right? It's like,
Yeah, for sure.
She's like, hey, like the older people in the South need to stop talking about this religious fanaticism.
Yeah,
it's how they keep us in their grip.
It's
So
a
they-
beautiful reflection on society.
Yeah, and it investigates the Bene Gesserit more than the book ever does.
Wow.
So
okay.
like because she blames the Bene Gesserit for this like thing taking over her people and its influence, almost like a little colonialism.
I mean, it's
vibes,
true.
you
Yeah,
know?
it's really true.
So I thought that was a really good change. I thought, whereas in the book, you basically have people all really believe in the prophecy, if I
Right.
remember correctly, but don't believe that it's Paul.
Okay.
This is like, there's that, and there's people that just don't believe in the prophecy.
Well, I like the idea that even in this movie, they play with the sort of themes of there could be multiple people who could be, the one, the Lisan al Gaib, whatever it is. So, for example, in this, we're going to talk about Austin Butler's character in a moment. It's kind of woven in the Bene Gesserit. They didn't throw all their eggs in one basket. No. They spread their lot out.
And I believe that is a book that's in the books.
Okay.
I think that the way he did this, the way he explained it in a movie is really well done. Because like that could have been super confusing and annoying, and he did a really good job of adapting that. Because I was kind of confused by that in the book.
Up top, we should be saying like he has done a wonderful job, Denis Villeneuve.
It's better than the book.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, most things are, but they
shocking take.
No, I
shocking.
genuinely, I don't know why the book really put me off. I think it was just all of the fact that it didn't pander to, and that can be a good and a bad thing, but it didn't give you any ways into it. You literally had to go away.
They explain a lot of it in the back,
right?
3/4.
Yeah,
but the back 3/4 also becomes so absurd.
Yeah,
like
agreed.
There's like a fucking 2-year-old fully adult baby walking around. Like,
they do a good job of sort of perspecting this with. I quite like what they did there.
Yeah, which is that spoilers?
It is a bit spoilery.
Okay.
What I really liked about this was that they didn't keep it static from the first movie. They evolved with it. And one thing I'd like to talk a little bit about is the fact that not only did they build on it, but they also must have used some of the cinematography from the first film, because some of the shots were shot for shot. Like they were part of visions that Paul had from the first film. But as well, obviously, they've grown up. It's like 3-4 years ago now. So they have grown up. They're different people. So I wonder how much of it they reshot as perfectly as possible and how much they sort of just reused because it was already there and it was part of the prophecy.
I think
in the
also
first.
like they filmed them, didn't they film them pretty close together?
Pretty much back to back, yeah.
And like it just has been a while because of COVID, not because of like and like the writer's strike, and also like it was like actually filmed. They weren't that much older.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, because even like you look at Timothée Chalamet now, and you're like, you look like way less. Like you're
He's
still a baby.
He's definitely a twink.
But his face has matured a bit more.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he looks like more babyish.
Isn't he dating one of the Kardashians or something now? I'm sure he is.
That's an agent move for sure. That's like a publicist. Like, yeah, kiss her at the Oscars.
Why not?
Yeah.
Do it, Timothée Chalamet.
I mean, he's like literally, he's doing everything right.
Imagine if his agent was Christopher Walken, who didn't really understand. He's like, Timothée, like, just kiss her at the Oscars. Like, it's fine.
It worked out.
Yeah, it did.
It fucking went viral. But he literally, his career, he's doing everything right.
He's amazing
so far. Like every choice he's made. I'm not sure I like love him. I like him. But like my point is like his actual
even
movies,
Wonka was good because of it.
Well, that actually is true. That shows that he has talent.
Yeah,
for sure.
Exactly.
But my point being,
I think this film does too.
His film selection has been like, this is how you become the like next bro actor that like everyone loves. You know, like the Jake Gyllenhaal, the Leos, like the films they pick.
I think he's on a more of a Leo trajectory.
I agree. But I don't think Jake Gyllenhaal is only different. They're actually quite similar. I mean, Jake Gyllenhaal started as Bubble Boy. Leo started as What's Eating Gilbert Grape. I mean,
that is such a good film.
They're both like, one of them is a comedy. But
an interesting rewatch for What's Eating Gilbert Grape with today's sensibilities. Not going to lie to you. It's very different. But like the cinematography and world building, like we're already in this world, right? Like we just get thrown back in, and I kind of like that. Doesn't pander to you, doesn't. I know your partner really wanted it to do like a last time on Dune.
Well, that's just because she freaking stupid didn't. That's because she did not pay attention in the first time we watched the movie. I was on her phone the whole time, and then like it was like, why don't I remember anything? I'm like, because this is already a very confusing film. But then we thought about it, and we're like, actually, the first movie isn't. Basically, they have to go to the planet. Bad guys kill them and betray them,
and then they go to the desert. Yeah, they do. That's
literally the plot.
Yeah, but like so one thing I hadn't talked about and probably should have done was we actually rewatched the first film like 2 or 3 nights prior to watching this, just to get in the headspace, remember the world, remember the weird phrases that I'd completely forgotten who was who in the zoo, and I found I could skip certain chunks of it without feeling I was missing out.
Well, there's not a lot of plot.
No.
There's a lot of, like, that's my biggest critique, I think, would be that
we talked about that last time,
is that, like, they missed, like, it was beautiful. I loved it. It was a bit slow, but I loved it.
Yeah.
It's just that, like, there was other stuff for them to put in that also would have made some of the culminations of certain character arcs in this one better if you added it.
Yeah.
So that is
and it wouldn't have been a big change either.
This one will be a much better rewatch.
Well, we'll talk about that, I think, as we're going through.
Yeah.
But I did like the worms in this. They're more fleshed out. They're more interesting. You see them as little babies. But they're like these just terrifying force of nature. Man got a ride. Man's got a ride if he wants to become a man. That's what happens here.
Fleshed out, right? The worms. The innuendos here.
The question I had for you though is right. So they finally get to ride the worms. It's in the trailers. We're not spoiling anything for you. They finally see Paul riding the worm. How they do it is they jump on top and then they chuck these like little hooks into the worm and hold on for dear life. You tell me how the fuck they're steering that thing, because I have no idea. Or do they just jump on and they go the direction it's going and go, I guess I'm going this way.
They pull on the flaps.
Right. More innuendo bingo. Let's keep playing this game.
The extra skin.
Are you telling me that ginormous worm is feeling any of that?
Yeah, he's like, owie, okay, I'll go up. Owie, okay, I go right.
I thought there'd be more to that. I thought like maybe they'd be like, I don't know, shocked or something. Like there'd be shocks in those little things so they could.
Maybe there is.
Like that's like an ant like on you. Like you'd barely feel it.
Well, I mean, it's like it still hurts. Like you get a paper cut, you're like, ow. You know, like it's not like these things are like big hooks.
You make good points.
Yes, and it's like
make good points.
It could be sensitive, like a butthole.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it very well could like a bubble. I like the sort of like
bubble
ecological themes that comes with sort of like the, you know, there's a lot baked into those worms that I find really fascinating. The one thing about the world that I didn't love, and I feel like Denis needed to do something about the 1984 film. Like, why didn't he bring some semblance of that back? Give us the pugs. Put the pugs in this just for a scene, 2 scenes.
No.
Do it. Do it.
Do it, Denis.
Oh, I love it. I literally anything to do with that first one. I think he could have given like a little nod, you know, maybe put Kyle MacLachlan in there for a scene, and just a little nod, anything, just a little Easter egg.
I literally think there's nothing you can take from that film.
No, there is. I've been completely facetious.
I actually thought the worms in that film weren't terrible for the time.
For the time, they were pretty fun. Yeah. I like that.
But our worms are better.
Your worms, DL, are definitely better. So I think one thing I wanted to chat to you about was the fact that people in the media are talking about how Austin Butler's performance is apparently on par with the likes of Heath Ledger as the Joker. Now, no.
I don't think anyone's saying that.
Yeah,
I think that's just like what people are saying. Media discord. People are just saying that. That's like a hashtag. Like it's like a Russian bot.
It's a different league. It's a different league.
It's like, dude, he's got like 5 lines.
Yeah, he's bet.
It's like, and one of them is like, "May finite shatter." It's like he's got a lisp.
I like what he's going for. Like, I like the idea of it.
Dude, he was awesome. But like, it's just not the same level of character. Heath Ledger is basically a main character in that Batman film. He's got as many lines, if not more, than Batman.
He is the main character,
and Batman doesn't even talk much.
Yeah, other than like,
swear to me,
swear to me. I was born in the dark. One of my most favorite quotable films. But like, I thought it was a really good performance overall. Like, I really enjoyed it. The flip side of that is that one of the big scary bad guys of the last film, and I've got to give a big shout out to Dave Bautista for just being a big scaredy cat in this.
Dude,
all he does is run away and cry.
What?
Every single scene he's in is just him being ridiculed or
just like being like throwing a temper tantrum.
Yeah,
or like all in all, just acting like a child.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I think the Harkonnens in general, I really enjoy.
White child.
I think he's definitely at the point now where he's not bothered about the muscle anymore, surely. You could tell in this he had some padding on him. I was like, good for you, man.
Well, I think it's like cool how they juxtapose like lean Austin Butler, who's actually like the savage and like,
absolutely.
And like the one to be scared of with like the big buff wuss.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting though, because in the last one, he was pretty scary, like Dave Bautista's character. He didn't have a lot to do.
I guess like that's the part where I'm like, surely he would be a good fighter.
You'd think so. You'd assume it'd be like a great fighter the way he's allowed. He's good.
Yeah.
But isn't he like the Baron's favorite son or something? In the book,
I think he's just more like a more direct descendant.
Sure. I
Does that
see.
make sense? Because the other guy's like a nephew.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Speaking of the Baron, Stellan Skarsgård. Wowza, he's fun in this. As the partner loves to call him, the big slug man. He's just like gangster in this.
He's kind of like a mix of Jabba the Hutt and the guys from Prometheus, I think you said in the show, the theater, or like
with like the sensibilities of like something out of The Godfather. Like he's got all of that.
Yeah.
And how you managed to smash those three together? Who came up with that? I have no idea.
I don't know.
I like the look of them though. Like I think we talked about this last time we talked about Dune. That whole completely bald. Like in the books, I believe Fade Routher is this like beautiful human being who's like a shining star, but also a psychopath. Like he's Sting in the other movie.
Yeah.
I love that they gave them all this weird sperm look in this.
I think so.
You know all about that.
Yeah, I would know. I do think it's like, this is going to be, you know, Arrakis is going to be a tough environment for their complexion.
Yeah.
I do think like if they haven't thought about it, you know, like they need sunscreen.
They'd make a killing.
They'd need, dude.
Open a couple of stalls.
Like, you know that there's the saying, like the people that made money in the gold rush, the people selling picks and shovels, like, you know, the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Like who's going to be the next infrastructure of AI, right? That's what everyone's betting about. Like The infrastructure of Arrakis is literally wigs and sunscreen for all these Harkonnens. Like, they would pay top dollar.
Open up a stall.
There are
Try that.
sunburns out there.
I
Man,
love it.
That,
I love it. I think
would
one
make you
thing,
cry.
one thing you mentioned before that we should really touch on is some of the characterization. Now, I do think there were some missed opportunities to build some ideas into the first film that could really be expanded upon in this one. But one character I think is a little oddly represented is Paul. So obviously Timothée Chalamet's character, like his whole thing is that he doesn't. He's the whole Jon Snow. He's like, she is my queen. I don't want it the whole way through, and that's great. It's amazing. But then like 2/3 of the way through, it's just like snap your fingers, and he just changes.
I don't even think it's like it's not full. You're right. It does just change. And that is like the big critique I think I have. But I can't remember if it's like that in the book, and this is just the way the story goes.
It just felt rushed. Like, there wasn't an impetus for him to change.
Yeah. The one thing I will say is like it doesn't feel as Jon Snowy in the sense that like he's still doing he wants to help
Absolutely
them. He wants
true.
to do all the things. He just doesn't want it to be credited as like he doesn't want it to become this religious zeal. He doesn't want. He's like, it's just all of us doing this. Like that's what's happening.
I guess the crux of that character then is that he is told, is it north or south he has to go?
South is where they're more fundamentalist.
Okay, right.
Yeah,
so he's told that he has to go south to finish his army effectively. But he has had these visions of what could happen if he goes south, starts a holy war.
Because they're going to take him as a religious figure. They're much more
terrified.
Religious.
Yeah. But what I think happens is when Fade Routher arrives, effectively he just goes ham. He's just like, fuck these guys. I'm going to do all the shit that we haven't done yet. And
I think,
forces their hand to go south.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the parts that like if he goes south, it's going to happen no matter what. It's kind of like what they try and say. And I think the other part that I think is where it got missed is like when Fade Routher takes over managing the Arrakis. Yeah, like he does a better job of it.
Yeah.
And so he's like the Freemen are losing and they're like people are dying and Paul's kind of being forced into like I need an advantage, right? And so he does go, and I guess we're not into spoilers yet, so I'll leave it at that for now.
No, but I think that's interesting. Like, and for a film that's quite long, let's talk about pacing in a sec. It's a long movie, but it doesn't feel long. Like it's well paced, and I think the action there's enough action to keep you intrigued with enough of Denis Villeneuve's beautiful cinematography
and crescendos with the music and score.
Right. And he keeps you flowing along the river. But like, I do think for a movie that's this long, it wouldn't have hurt to have a few extra little bits here and there to just push some of these characterizations and changes in characterization forwards.
I think a dialogue sequence that makes it more clearly defined that he's about to make a big choice is what it was missing. And I think one more scene where they did quite a bit with Gurney being like the influence of like, take your legacy, fight, use these people. Like they did a good job there. For sure.
I think so too.
But I guess my point is it didn't feel like Paul was receptive to that.
Sure.
And then suddenly he does change.
Right.
So that is like, that's the part that's missing.
It's interesting that there isn't a dialogue. There isn't like something to change him. Or it doesn't seem to be.
And in the book, I'll say this is one of the differences we can say, because we're not talking book spoilers. We're not talking movie spoilers. We're talking book. He does have there's a 2-year gap between part 1 and part 2. And he has a son. And with Shawnee, and that son is killed in that Sheik attack. And so that's kind of more of a impetus for him to, I think, do something that we kind of missed.
That would have been a good impetus. He wouldn't be impetus if he had a son with Shawnee.
He would not.
I have to call out Florence Pugh, and actually I can't really fault anyone. It's just great. Like the diverse cast is fantastic. Everyone's pretty great. As a character who's really fleshed out, who's not really in the books, bar some weird scripts at the beginning, I think that Princess Irulan character is great. She's really stern. Yeah. She's really powerful, but feminine at the same time. Like, that's a hard balance. And I feel like some people in this, pushing her to do one thing where she's conflicted because she feels that, like them wiping out the Atreides was the wrong thing to do. It works. She works with that material really well, I think.
She does, for sure. The one thing I do question is, why does anybody trust these
the Bene Gesserits?
Like that is something I left this leaving this film, and I'm like, did they answer that in the book? Like, why do they? But we'll talk about that in spoilers.
I wonder if it's just because they've been there for so long.
Yeah. Well, I think that we'll talk about it in spoilers. It's hard to talk about now.
It's like Wormtongue in The Lord of the Rings. They've just buried their way into the brains of the elites, so they need them. We talked about pacing already. Like, you just have to indulge Denis Villeneuve at times. You've just got to be like, like take your time with this scene.
Always.
Yes. Okay. Great.
Until he proves that I do not have to.
I mean,
which he's yet to do.
Yet to do.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll never. One of my favorite directors. Let's talk a bit about action then, because you've sort of hinted at it a little bit. There's some really interesting action in this. The CGI is completely flawless, wall to wall. Whenever there's any space action, like any of the ornithopters or any of the big battle scenes. But for me, the things that steal the show when it's smaller scale.
Yeah.
So there's a scene when we go to the Harkonnen home planet, and Fade Routher is having his birthday fight, and all of a sudden the saturation just zips out of the film. And it becomes this black and white, like, almost like, I don't know how to describe it, like guttural Sin City-esque fight scene with him between a couple of guys. And it's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Such an interesting choice.
It is.
And it's apparently, Denis Villeneuve himself, there's a reason for this. It's because apparently there is a black sun on that planet that orbits around it. So it takes all of the color out.
Yeah, I think there was also something like more moral about it too that I read him talking about, where he's like, in this era, like because these guys are pure evil. Yeah, when you light them, it is all contrast or dark. Like it's like darks and like instead of showing more color, it shows less.
Yeah,
because they're the definition,
and they're all
of evil.
Together, so it becomes that's a really interesting.
It was like a tonal thing as well that he wanted to.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I really like the guerrilla warfare of the Fremen as well, though. Like the way they were taking down the Harkonnens, just simple, effective, playing to their strengths, understanding tactics the way they'd never done before. Such a good, interesting way of building those characters.
Yeah, and it was just fun and cool looking.
He used to Lisan al Gaib.
Lisan al Gaib! He flipped the FaceTime around. Lisan al Gaib!
He created a PDF. Lisan al Gaib! It's great. Fabulous characterization. Actually, I really liked him in this. I'm not going to lie to you. He was fantastic. What a great characterization of Stilgar.
Stilgar, man.
Javier Bardem. What a ledge.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm getting a bit too close to like talking spoilers here. So should we do a little bit of tones and themes?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Anything to say before we move on?
Mainly just like the art direction and design, and this is like phenomenal and unique and
unreal.
Yeah, I mean, like, we've talked about how pretty it is in the cinematography and the
blends
CGI, but
well,
I also think just like the design. Like, it's very, very unique, and I don't think it's described that way in the book. I think this is like mostly whoever was in charge of that, and it's pretty badass.
Well, for sure, I know the Harkonnens aren't like this in the book. They aren't all this bold race. I really like some of the design choices, definitely around things like the various clothings they all wear. Like all of that is fantastic. Really uniquely created. Little details down to like, so it's Fade Routher's birthday, and he has these fights in like it's like not an auditorium. What is it? It's like
gladiator.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that. So, but they have their version of fireworks, which are kind of wet almost.
They were cool. I liked
so
it.
interesting.
Yeah.
Such an interesting like POV on how other planets might celebrate.
Yeah, I also like
Beautiful
that scene
design
where
choices.
it's like right after that, he's like, your Bene Gesserit tricks won't work on me. 2 seconds later, it's like, yeah, they did, bro. They did work on you, I must say.
Tones and themes.
So many to count, my man.
Coming of age.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely like a hero's coming of age tale, but like kind of like, I think we'll see in spoilers, but I don't think this is necessarily one where like it's like a, this is a role model.
Yeah, sure. It's not a classic hero's arc,
but it is definitely a hero's arc, and I would say fate versus free will is obviously like you see that heavily in the Freeman story. And religion as a mechanism for both hope but also control.
Yeah, I've got that too. That's awesome. Yeah, not even that, just the nature of power, like using religion as a way of controlling. So like the flip of the perspective of what you said. Absolutely. It's so deep, this movie. It's so delicious. I love it. It's so much. Let's do 3 best and 3 worst then. So 3 reasons why people might want to see this film, non-spoilers, and 3 reasons why they might want to see it.
Oh, for sure. The visuals, the score, the art direction. I think the biggest thing I think is it's like a strong adaptation.
Yes.
And a faithful adaptation at the same time. So meaning like, if you read the books, you're going to love this. If you didn't, you still can watch it.
Absolutely.
My partner, her only critique was, I thought it was going to end 5 times. But she said, honestly, it didn't feel long. And she understood 90% of it.
Mine
which is
loved
like
it.
shocking.
I'm
telling you, it's shocking. Like, she does not do sci-fi. She turns her brain off, but she could keep up with it. It was
amazing.
It's a testament for sure. And then the third is just great acting.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So I've got the cinematography. You kind of said that. just Chani, and it says Chain here. It's clearly also corrected. Chani just being a strong, independent woman. I really like that POV of someone around Paul who just didn't take his shit, didn't, you know, think he was the chosen one.
It would be boring if you didn't have
She was
that.
like, prove yourself. Yeah, I really like that. And also just like that theme of, you know, free will versus fate. Like, I know it's a little overdone and it's classic sci-fi, but it's great. It's done really nicely in this.
I thought that this was like the perfect way to do it because like he's basically like having this mediocre rise in a way that is like totally not, it's not like supernatural. It's like he's obviously gifted and talented,
it shows
and he's obviously getting help, and
absolutely.
so it could be naturally happening.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean.
And then he's a warrior,
and he is a warrior. He's been trained. Like it all makes sense. It's meritocratic. It actually makes sense.
Yeah,
legitimate. And then there's also this other like supernatural, spicy, you know, mythical side where you're like, okay, I can also see how that, like, why people would think that. Like seeing it from afar in this place where when you breathe, you take acid, basically. Like I liked the mix of both.
We're going to talk about that in just a moment because I have one thing about that I would like to pick your brain about, actually. What's your worst, very quickly?
Worst would probably be, I don't quite understand what drives Paul to do something that's pretty big in the film. We'll talk about it later. It's a pretty big pinnacle switch.
Yeah.
We talked about it a bit. He does, you know, make a pivot, and it's not as intentional as I would have liked for something as important as it should have been. I'd say the same thing for Gurney's story. I'd say like I like the way it ended, but I wish we got more in the first to make it a little more substantive.
We've got pretty much the same points here.
And same thing I would argue with you know, some of the plot points that the Bene Gesserit eventually reveal. It's like, okay, House Atreides, they were betrayed in the first one for a reason. I would like to see that reason a bit more in the first one. So it's mostly criticism of the first one.
Yeah.
Not really the second.
Not giving us enough. I kind of agree with you on that. The only thing I have which is different to that is the fact that they didn't have the line in this, get everything with guns in the air. Like they should have brought it.
It's a big miss.
I feel like they could have.
The other thing, there was no Mark Wahlberg, like, at all.
Right?
Where could we have put him in?
10.
Where could we have fit him?
Well,
there's no plants, so I guess you
had Christopher Walken. So do you need Mark Wahlberg?
There's no plants to talk to. It is dry.
That's very true.
So like I guess
so true.
Not.
It would have been better with Mark Wahlberg. That's a running reference of ours.
Yes,
I think that's from our Dark Knight episode.
I mean, it's
surely
always,
not.
I mean, any episode
we brought it back.
Any
it's
movie
back for good.
Yeah.
So let's talk critical reception very quickly. We'll run through a couple and do our own. Can you guess me what the current IMDb score is for this?
I think I've seen it. It
Okay.
is a 9.
It's a flat 9. Yeah, it is. What about Rotten Tomatoes?
98.
Ooh, it's 93. Yeah, I don't know.
The fuck the other day was a 98. Like Rise of the Apes of King Apes or whatever.
Like that
was a 98. This is 92.
I mean, like
93?
it's real long. I can see why people might be a bit like, I'm done after a while.
You can see the runtime before you enter the movie.
That's also true. So Letterboxd then, which is all user scores and is always 3.6. Can you guess what it is?
I'm debating. I think it's actually 3.8, but I'm going to say 4.
4.6.
Wow.
Yeah. That's pretty hectic.
Cool.
Good. I like what you're doing there, Letterboxd. Now, what we do is we do our rating system, which is very binary and very internet. So it's basically, is this better or worse than the most average movie that we know? Which, as for the most part I've ever seen, has been Aquaman 2018, which it's an obvious yes or no in this case, but like, why, DL? Why is it better than Aquaman 2018?
I mean, all the reasons previously stated. It's a good adaptation.
It's a good movie.
Let's just say it's a good adaptation.
Good movie.
Did you vote Aquaman 2 is better than Aquaman 1?
No.
It was
worse.
It was
worse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I believe. I mean, we'll come back. Check the tapes. I honestly can't remember. Matt, check the tapes. Let us know.
It is 100% worse.
Yes!
For
we
sure.
agree!
It has to be.
Spoilers?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, right. So I have one really burning fucking question for you, which made me a little... The only thing that put me off about this movie, really, in any significant way, was when Paul drank the blue piss, whatever it was. And
the water of life.
Yes, the water of life.
The earth piss.
And
the worm piss.
Became omnipotent. He could see the future. He could see the past. Time became a flat circle, man.
Time
basically became Rust from True Detective. Right. If he can see the future and can see the past, he knows what's going to happen. And I get it. It's not all perfect. There are shattering timelines and he picks one. But if he can see them and he knows what's going to fucking happen, does that take all of the pretense and any sort of interest out of it for you in any way? Because it did for me.
I think it didn't for me because I know a bit more about what like they describe it more in the book.
Okay.
It's not that he can see. It's like it's almost like statistics.
Sure.
It's like not guaranteed, and he still has to do it. But he knows like what major choices to make, and when he makes a choice, like certain roads end and new one, and then it be like changes. It's not like it sees it all. He sees where one will lead, and then once he gets there, he sees a bunch more pathways, but he doesn't know beyond those 2 steps what happens, if that makes sense.
So he couldn't.
It's like
see
having half the map.
So this basically culminates in a one-on-one fight between Paul and Fade Rautha, which pretty cool. Liked it a lot. But the way I perceived in this movie, what happened to him was he became basically omnipotent. He could see the futures that were happening.
You gave him too much. It's like he can see that if he takes this choice to storm Arrakis and he does it this way, it will end with a basically a chance for him to have a coup with the Emperor, where he will fight the Emperor's champion, and then he has to bet on himself to beat the Emperor's champion.
Okay, well, I mean,
it's not like you get like it's more descriptive in the book.
Well described in the film, because honestly, as soon as he took the blue piss, I was literally like, I don't like that. For me, it kind of sucked all the tension out of the film a little bit.
I understand why that happened.
Like he was unkillable at that point.
I understand.
And he acted that way.
He had mad plot armor. You mean?
Yeah.
Like I think that what they did well in the first one with the hallucinations was it showed you both sides of the hallucination, like both sides of what could happen.
Yeah.
Whereas it was already so long, they can't really add more of that.
But the thing I liked about the first one was it really rammed that home, the fact that the hallucinations weren't going one way or another, because
super clear either.
The guy who in the hallucinations was the one teaching him. It wasn't Chani. It was the guy who he murders at the end of the first film.
Yeah.
So he's the one who was his teacher in his hallucinations. And it's really interesting that whole story arc changed because of a choice that was made. That I found super interesting. I think if they'd have been a bit more prescriptive with that, I felt like it could have made it more tension soaked for me. Because as soon as he drank it, and I was like, yeah, all right, well,
I think they needed to distract you with other like multiple paths that could have happened.
Yeah, right.
Where you don't know what path he's choosing.
Sure.
And you don't know what the outcome's gonna be. Like, so then you're still guessing. You know what I mean? You're not like as distracted by the fact that you think he just knows everything.
Yeah, because I mean that's how I felt. I was like, and don't get me wrong, like take nothing away from this fantastic ending. Loved what happened. Just that fight scene where he had to take a blade to finish it off Fade Rautha. It was cool. It was cinematic. It was great. But at the time, I was literally like, oh well. He's only going to do that because he knows that he can get him with whatever happens next, But
I think the biggest thing for me was it just like didn't seem like a very poignant character choice, and it was like a missed opportunity to add like a temptation storyline. Like the drink is the temptation for him to take, because it's like an easier way out.
He's losing the war now,
but he has to lose. He sacrifices a bit of his humanity and his relationships, and it's so like they didn't really. He kind of just after they blow up the Sheik. He kind of just goes there and does it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, okay, well, like that wasn't super, like everything prior to
hardship
this
for him.
Was like, hey, I really don't want to. That's not the point. You're missing the point, Gurney. I don't want to use I don't want to do that. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he's like, I switch. So it's like, give me a conversation where there's a disagreement on that. Right?
I feel like they tried to showcase that with Chani's character being a bit like, oh, like if you do this, you're not going to be the same. But he didn't, you're right. It didn't flesh that out.
There was never a decisive choice for him to do it.
You didn't really see them losing the war. They just had like one hit, and then he was like, fuck it, gotta do it, guys. I'm out.
There was no like stake for why he did that.
Yeah.
Because he could have also gone and done that and pretended to be that guy. But I think the point was like they think they needed it.
Yes.
And they didn't. I think they missed there.
So they did effectively the Dune equivalent of, I don't know, using your phone to record someone saying something mean about someone else in the bathroom. And they basically cornered the Emperor, who was Christopher Walken. He was amazing. He was the Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
And basically, because he was alive, Paul Atreides used that information that the Emperor had effectively sent their their clan to die, to try and influence the lesser large but also great houses, and they basically capture the Emperor and a bunch of his subordinates, which I found really interesting. I like that idea.
No, I liked it a lot too. There's a couple changes there from the books. He doesn't kill. Oh, the other big reveal is that he's half Harkonnen.
Yeah,
he's half Harkonnen and half Atreides. So like
his mum was the daughter of the big slug man.
Yes, which is part of the reason, and his mom didn't know that until she drank that stuff as well. And it's part of the reason why they didn't want her to create a male, I think, because it's like they knew that it was a male of both Harkonnen and Atreides, but she just thought it was just a male,
right?
And that added like more risk. They don't really talk about that in the show, but they do in the book. Another big change was Shawnee leaves.
Yes, she does at the end.
Because he basically decides he needs to do, and this is in the book as well, to marry the emperor's daughter.
Yeah.
To like unite the realm as like a token marriage, even though he's in love with her and he's consistently says, "I'll always love you no matter what I do."
Yeah.
But in this, she doesn't respond as well.
Well, for me, it was interesting because he kept saying, "I will love you until my last breath" or something. But because he kept using that exact phrase, whatever it was, I was like, oh, maybe he, like, that was the only part of me that was going like, oh, maybe he will die, because he keeps using this phrase about effectively until I die or whatever, which I know in the hindsight of it was he was just trying to say like, I'm going to make this fucked up decision, but you got to know I still love you. I like that. It was kind of political, very Game of Thronesian in how it was sort of playing out, like he had to make the hard decision, not marry the woman he loved. I kind of like that. It was good. It was interesting.
I liked it too. And then the other, I guess, big thing that kind of leads us to like, where will it go? Yeah. Is the minor houses apparently deny his claim.
Yes. And he leaves it wide open for a sequel.
Yeah. Which, and like, even when they didn't deny his claim, there was a sequel, but it didn't feel as clean.
Okay.
Like, I was like, okay, well, what are they going to...
How are they building on
this? Because that's a change from the books. They don't deny his claim in the books.
Right.
So I'm like, what are they going to do? Just create this, like, nice paradise that he said he was going to create? You know?
I'm just thinking about this movie, right? Yeah. So...
He's changed a lot.
But you said before that they arrive, they get defeated, and then they go to the desert. I think this movie is just the reverse of the first movie.
It is.
They start in the desert, they go and they defeat the Harkonnens, and then they leave. They leave to go to the start for the Holy War. It's two fucking backwards movies.
Yeah. Sometimes simple's good.
That's so fucking simple. I absolutely love that. Yeah, this movie was pretty great, to be honest with you. Had a great time with it. A few nitpicks at the end there, which, you always have to have with these types of movies. I think the best art is the art that makes you question it, makes you ask questions. And, I want to know more about this. I want to know why, Paul Atreides made the snap decision, but perhaps they'll explore it more in a sequel.
Perhaps they will. And we'll everyone why anybody ever trusts a Ben Gesserit. Because literally they just betrayed they literally betrayed every single person in this movie.
Literally.
Except for Harkonnens.
That's interesting. Maybe they were the richest ones though. Yeah, all right. Shall we wrap up with a little bit of trivia, true or false, my man?
We shall.
Nice. Okay. Trivia true or trivia false, DL? Stellan Skarsgård's body makeup took 8 hours to apply and 2 hours to remove every day after shooting. Is that true or is that false?
It is true.
It is true. He didn't drink anything and took Imodium pills in order to avoid having to go to the bathroom during days of shooting.
Well, he is old.
Yeah. Unreal. Yeah. I couldn't wait that long to go to the bathroom.
For sure.
I mean, I couldn't not drink water either. That would be ridiculous. Trivia true or false, DL? Shooting had to be stopped multiple times due to Adam Butler continually slipping into his Elvis accent, causing stars, including Josh Brolin, to lose their temper at the young actor. Is that true or is that false?
It feels so different. I think it's false.
It is false. I made that shit up.
It feels so different. Like, how do you go from that, like, to like, it's like, baby.
Wouldn't it be so funny?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good one.
Apparently, he had to see a voice coach to get rid of the Elvis accent because he still was doing it like 2 years later.
Like, lady.
See, we watched some interviews with him from the last couple of years. He was still fucking doing that stupid accent.
Because he probably just loved it, dude. I mean, Austin Butler is getting a lot of like, him and Timothée are like, their rises are kind of mediocre right now. They're doing well.
They're going pretty well. Yeah. All right. Couple more then. True or false, DL? Yeah. The music Gurney Halleck plays is actually from the soundtrack of the 1984 movie. No, when he's playing his little guitar thing in the ship.
Oh.
True or is it false?
I thought you were talking about like the remember in the first one they played bagpipes. It was pretty cool.
No.
That was one of the cooler parts of the movie.
When he plays guitar in this one.
No, yeah, that is funny. He was like, Spider-Man, Spider. This is like basically similar level of quality. I would say that has to be true because that movie is so bad and that song was not very good.
Ooh, it's not. It's actually reminiscent of the soundtrack of the MS-DOS Dune game from 1992. Now that is a weird niche cut, but good for you guys. Like what we did there. So finally, this is the second film to feature Josh Brolin defeating Dave Bautista in hand-to-hand combat. Is that true or is that false?
Second film featuring Josh Brolin beating David Bautista in hand-to-hand combat. It, of course, is true because of
Avengers Infinity War.
Yes.
Absolutely is.
I mean, although it was like not live action.
Hand-to-hand.
But I give it to you, yes.
Dave Bautista had a lot of fucking makeup on in both.
Yeah, he did.
Guys, look, ultimately this was one of my favorite movies of the year. Thank God we got a good one.
Yes.
It's been a while.
It was worth the wait.
It was
this on my list?
I think this might have
This is on my list. This is a winner.
Did you get a hit?
This is a hit.
Go back to your anticipated moves of the year. What did you have on there?
I'm pretty sure this is
I think I left this one for you. You did have this one.
But
Good.
I mean, it was like a guarantee.
I mean, it was a bit
It
of a
was never
guarantee,
going to be
but-
bad. Yeah.
Oh, you never know, though. Like, stuff like this, you can overhype. I overhype
Killers
things in
of
my
the
head
Flower Moon.
regularly. Exactly.
Oh.
So, guys, thank you very much for sticking with us. We really appreciate you. We love it when you stick around and you give us a 5-star review. It really helps with the show. DL, do you want to wrap up?
I do want to wrap, and a big thank you to Matthew Bliss for editing and mastering this week's episode.
He's a legend.
If you would like Matt to be a part of your podcasting team, get in touch with him at business@mbpod.com or head to mbpod.com to find out more about his services. It's wondrous, you know.
He's a huge part of our team.
It's awesome.
He is the team, effectively.
Cave
We
of
just-
Wonders. It's that good. All right.
We just chat shit and he makes it sound like a
Yeah.
real podcast. I'm baffled how he does it sometimes.
If you...
It's better than Christopher Walken on a good day.
Oh, wow. Well, Matt, that's high praise. If
Actually,
you want to
no one's
hear
better than Christopher Walken on a good day.
his work, listen to From My Home to Yours, an expat and repat podcast where Matt and his wife share their experiences and advice for others moving to Ireland from Australia
Wholesome.
or
Wholesome
anywhere.
podcasting. It's beautiful to hear.
anywhere.
Thank you very much for sticking with it, guys. DL,
It's been real. It's been fun.
till next
It's
time.
been a worm's bum. Let's get after it, boys. Tell you.
Tally-ho, baby!